And welcome everybody to another episode of Glove Up or Shut Up right here on AngryMarks.com. My name is Peter H. I'm joined once again by my co-host from Omaha, Nebraska, Stevie J.
That's Mitch Stevie Chilson for you, Peter. And we got such an exciting show for you in Singapore. I'm pumped. This crowd is energetic. It's Dynasty of Heroes. You're gonna love it.
We got the bad connection. Apparently we're getting a Singapore connection right now.
That guy he has like 20 cups of coffee before he does play-by-play. And then he gets in the ring and he interviews the fighters and he's still all jacked up. He's like, I'm here with your winner. He's like, dude, you can take it down from 15 to 10 at any point here.
So, Stevie, I got a question for you. On a scale of 1 to Tiger Woods, how good was your Memorial Day weekend?
I think between ONE FC and UFC, I had a thoroughly enjoyable weekend. I had great fights on Friday morning. I had great fights on Sunday afternoon. And if you're a fan of mixed martial arts, you really can't ask for better than that.
Exactly. We have UFC Fight Night 109 and one championship to review and also preview this past weekend, or this upcoming weekend's pay-per-view UFC 212 Aldo versus Holloway.
Where's Jose Waldo? When you find him, let me know.
Oh, Jose Waldo.
Hey, Max Holloway picked a catchphrase and got it over, so good for him.
Hey, he needs everything he can get, but we'll get there. But we do have some big news, and I mean big, because Big Country is now a part of the Bellator roster.
Yes, they officially sent out the press release. The word leaked out a few days ago before Memorial Day weekend, but they formalized the details today. They said he was one of the most exciting fighters to ever come off The Ultimate Fighter when it was still on Spike TV, and they were thrilled that he was finally coming back home to where he first made his name. Which, I would argue, he actually made his name in the International Fight League when he was their heavyweight champion, but I digress.
No, I'm in the same camp with that one. IFL is where I think Nelson made his start, but, I mean, those who didn't watch IFL obviously saw him on The Ultimate Fighter, Season 10 heavyweights.
That's right, where he had one of the most legendary fights in the show's history that did blockbuster ratings when he and Kimbo Slice met.
And let's just say what did not last long, from what I remember.
Well, actually, I remember what Kimbo said about the fight more than the fight itself. After the fight, he was like, I had the moon sitting on me. How do you get off the moon?
I had a friend of mine who's a casual MMA fan ask me, what's the name of his training camp? And when I said the country club, he just gave a double take, like, seriously?
Damn
like,
straight.
yes, and now he's in Bellator.
And if you want to learn how to get some great grappling and be just a tough all-around dude, you could go to the country club and learn quite a few things from him.
Absolutely, but from one heavyweight fighter to a knockout artist, from one knockout artist to another knockout artist, let's talk about the main card here for UFC Fight Night 109, Glover Teixeira against Alexander the Mauler Gustafsson.
He lives up to that nickname because the Mauler really put a beating on Glover for 4 rounds and then part of a fifth, to the point you and I were both dumbfounded to how many more uppercuts and punches to the head that Glover Teixeira could take before he'd finally go down.
There was quite a few moments where the referee could have stopped him. He was on wobbly legs once or twice, but it was that 5th round where he just got hit with a punch and it was over. And it was not even like...
I had been of the opinion before that round even started that if Glover got dropped one more time, the fight was over. So the moment he fell from that shot in the 5th round, I was like, done. They're not going to let him take any more punishment. And the referee rushed it immediately. I'm like, that was the right call, because when he finally got dropped again in that 5th round, it was an accumulation of times that he was in danger of being finished. There were a couple of 10-8 rounds in that fight, and the only thing that people can knock out of Gustafsson's performance is that whenever Glover would finally get into range and try to take a swing at him, Gustafsson would just turn his back and sprint away. And I don't know why that's considered a negative. It's like, okay, maybe he's turning his back to his opponent, but at the same time, are you going to stand there and take shots from Glover? No, a stupid person would do that. He's doing the correct thing by staying out of his range and making Glover fight him instead of the other way around. So
when it comes to the punching power of Gustafsson, I mean, it was a fight he had to win to stay in the upper tier of the division, but a Glover victory here, I mean, Glover has that power in his hands where he could have popped Gustafsson with one solid shot and the fight would have been over. So going into the fifth round, some people had hope, whether it be very slim, that Teixeira could have, caught him off guard with one shot and it would have been lights out.
It's fine to hope that. It's fine to think last-ditch effort, but he was already a physical mess. He was bleeding all over the place. He'd been battered repeatedly. When I talk about these Gustafsson uppercuts, if you weren't watching this fight, they were just brilliant. These things came out of nowhere and caught him clean on the chin every single time. The way that Gustafsson would disguise it with his body language and his hand movement and then just pop him with the uppercut straight out of nowhere, it was wonderful to watch. This was like Gustafsson when he fought John Jones. This was the very best Alexander Gustafsson you could possibly hope to see. This was the guy that when he fought Jones and when he fought Cormier, how each time you felt like, and no! And then it didn't happen. It's like, that's the fighter that, the reason he's ranked as highly as he is and everybody wants him to get another title fight is because he's capable of performances like this.
Did you notice that Gustafsson kept his right arm tucked in at all times for that knockout shot?
His stance was perfect. He was on point. He was looking for the shots, and he was keeping him at range and using the length of his arms to make sure everything was there right where he wanted it and not any closer.
So, now this basically was number 1 versus number 2. So, in essence, does this mean the Mauler gets the next shot at 205 title?
If the buzz is any indication, I would give him the winner of Jones and Cormier because he's had great fights with both of them, and a sequel to either of those fights would be fantastic, and fans would want it.
All right, so let's move on to the co-main event here, and it was Volkan Ozdemir against Misha Kirkunov.
You know what? I coined a phrase. I don't know if you saw it.
What's that?
Oh shit, Demir. Cause, oh shit, He hit that punch and it was over. It was a perfect shot right behind the ear, and it was as Shirkunov was coming forward too, so you kinda had to watch it really carefully on the replay to see him just land that picture perfect shot, and all of a sudden, Shirkunov is lights out. He just falls down, no control over his body, cause, oh shit, did Ozdemir cream him with that one perfect punch.
I was watching this fight with, some interest with these two prospects because, I mean, these guys could be the face of the division in a couple of years.
I think Ozdemir just proved that that fight he had with OSP was not a fluke. He's not the future in a few years. He's the future right now.
Absolutely, and it was a punch right to the side of the head, right above the ear, and the equilibrium just short-circuited, and Kirkunov face flop facing down, basically. And the referee dived in to save him because he was in no way intelligently defending himself. And Ozdemir was going in for the kill and thought better of it. But 28 seconds, Kirkunov just got caught. It happens every fighter. He'll be back. And his next opponent, he better have his working boots on. That's all I got to say.
Speaking of losing your equilibrium, what did you think when you saw the way Peter Sabata just creamed Ben Saunders? I mean, to the point he broke his own hand just hitting him so damn hard.
Saunders looked like he was drunk, but still wanted to stay on his feet.
He tried so hard.
He did.
I can't remember the last time I've seen a better example of rubber legs than that. He tipped, he weaved, he struggled for his balance, and then his body just completely gave out. He couldn't keep upright no matter what.
It reminded me of an old Kids in the Hall sketch where a guy gets his butt kicked and he gets back up, and the patrons outside the bar are just saying, stay down, gets back up, boom, stay down. It's like, oh my God, buddy, just stay down.
Yeah.
That was it. It was bad.
Ben was definitely feeling the effects of this fight, and so was Peter, because like I said, your namesake had a broken hand, and when we saw him later at the press conference, it was wrapped up tight in a cast.
Mm-hmm. You could tell after the fight, trainer went there as he was helping him take off his glove, and he was pointing to his wrist or his hand. Weren't sure what it was, but definitely something was wrong.
And Celian kind of gave me some static for it on Twitter because I tweeted, he hit him so damn hard he broke his hand. And he's like, do you have an x-ray machine? How do you know that? And then like half hour later at the press conference, he's like, I broke my hand during the fight. And so I tweeted Celian back. I'm like, I don't need an x-ray. He just said so.
Was there a response after that?
Nah, but it's all in good fun with me and Celian. He's a cool guy.
All right, so let's move on to Amari Akhmedov against Abdul Razak Al-Hassan. And this one was a split decision, 30-27, 30-27, and 28-29.
Honestly, my memory of this fight is a complete blur, and I think the judges must feel the same way, which is why we didn't get any kind of definitive answer to the winner of this fight when the judges rendered a verdict. Akhmedov won, but I just don't remember anything distinctive about the fight whatsoever. It just, it was just a fight.
Yeah, that's basically what it was. Nordine Talib beat Oliver Enkamp, unanimous decision, 30-27, 30-27, and 29-28. Talib excelled here once again, and give him more, feed him more, that's what I say.
Yeah, basically my conclusion of the fight was Nordine turned in a solid performance in another welterweight bout, and you know what? The only thing that was lacking was he didn't really have a kill shot at any point. Not necessarily anything to write home about. Better than the Akhmedov fight, but not like setting the world on fire.
No. And Jack Hermanson beat Alex Nicholson with a TKO at the 2-minute mark of the very first round.
Yes. Now that, on the other hand, is something that is memorable and that you can talk about and that you can take home with you because it improves him to 15-3 overall. And it was a very well-received performance because he is a fighter from Sweden. He's Swedish by nationality. It's his birth, but he fights out of Oslo. That doesn't matter. What matters is that this was exactly what the fans wanted. It was like, start off the night with Hermanson because he's a hometown favorite, and end the night with Gustafsson because he's a hometown favorite. They gave him everything they wanted, sandwiched together on both ends.
It's true. Now, we got some good fights on the main card as far as the FS1 prelims.
Oh God, Silva and Medati was a ridiculously good fight.
It was close.
Who would have saw that coming? Another one of the phrases I coined was, somebody dropped the kitchen sink in the octagon because these two are throwing it at each other.
I wouldn't want to fight these guys 10 times because it'd probably be 5-5.
Indeed. Yeah, the split decision, the fact that it went to Silva, it could have easily gone the other way. And for my memory of it, I think Medati actually took the fight on short notice, so props to him for one hell of a performance in a very late notice fight.
And we had Pedro Munoz beating Damian Stasiak, unanimous decision. Trevor Smith beating Chris Camozzi. This one, I'm sad to say, could be curtains for Camozzi. He lost 30-27, 30-26, and 30-26.
Yeah, Trevor Smith pretty much beat his ass throughout this fight, and that's Camozzi's third straight loss, and I would think at this point he's probably Bellator bound.
There's some good fights for him at Bellator, though.
Yeah, if he can get back to his winning ways, he could go on a little bit of a run there, but he needs some work.
Now, I do have one question for you, and I've talked about the Fight Pass prelims because they start at 10 a.m. Eastern on Sunday. The first fight, Damir Hazovic beating Marcin Held.
Held was winning right until he lost.
Got caught with a knee knockout in the third round at the 7-second mark.
Yeah, and he was ahead in those first two rounds, but one mistake, it'll cost you. It doesn't matter how far ahead you are in the fight. Just like you were saying about Glover, as far ahead as Gustafsson was, there was always that chance, and that's pretty much what we saw play out in the first fight.
So what I'm thinking is, talking about Glover, he was down. All four judges had the first 4 rounds for Gustafsson. So Glover had to go for that knockout shot. So that 5th round, he had to basically throw everything against the wall because he wasn't going to win the fight on the cards. Marcin Held was winning the fight on the cards. Just don't get caught and you'll win this fight. And then poof.
Yep.
Before you blink, it's over.
Hazovic was in the exact same position. He's like, I got nothing to lose now. I'm going to go for broke. And sometimes when you do, it actually pays off. Oh, and I think you forgot, sorry to interrupt, but I think you forgot to mention that Bojan Milosevic beat Niko Musoki by knockout.
Yes, and also Darren Till beat Justin Ayari via unanimous decision.
No women on this card. That's kind of unusual.
It is, and we'll get some women fights coming up soon. But speaking of like a snap fight going from one way to the other, do you remember the Bobby Lashley fight where he tried to go for that takedown and got popped with an uppercut? It's something like that where you go in for something you think is going to work just to, slow down the fight and pop. You land on the mat and you're out like a light.
I don't know if he was out like a light from just that one shot, if I remember correctly. Wasn't that when he fought the Gravedigger?
Yes. Wasn't the one where he got stretchered out, I thought.
Houston. It was a doctor stoppage after the end of the second round. So I don't know if he got...
a different fight then.
Yeah. I don't know that he was stretchered out per se.
Okay. All right, so let's move on.
I think that was the fight where he was just physically exhausted and couldn't get off the stool for round 3.
Okay. What about the ONE FC show that you covered this past weekend?
Well, I covered 3 fights specifically during the ONE FC card, but I enjoyed the entire card as a whole, so I'll talk about the fights I covered and then you can ask me about anything else, because first, very early in the morning, streaming live on Facebook to welcome people into the pay-per-view and entice them to order. They had 2 or 3 fights, including Tiffany Teo versus Rebecca Heinzman-Rosowski, although they just called her Rebecca Heinzman for the most part. And her nickname is the Professor. She's an American fighter, but she's based out of China. Her nickname is the Professor. Now, that's a good nickname to have, but I think Teo's nickname, her opponent Tiffany Teo, had an even better nickname, the Soul Crusher. And that's pretty much what she did to Heinzman here. She crushed her soul throughout the fight. It was a striker, an excellent boxer, undefeated coming into this fight, just using superior technique on the feet to crush Heinzman's hopes and dreams.
Geez, tell me how you really feel.
I'm sorry. The fact that Heinzman was upset when the decision was announced afterwards, it was like, what do you got to be upset about? You got outboxed for this entire fight, and basically all you did was miss with a Superman punch and go for a leg trip takedown. It's like, what did you do to win this fight? And they kind of have the old, I wouldn't call it pride old school, but semi-pride-esque scoring, where you're not judged just by one round, you're judged by the entirety of this fight. So even if she won one round in there somewhere, which I don't know which one that would be, she definitely lost this fight.
That's much more to add to that one. I mean,
no, I suppose not. So I'll just go on to a name that I'm absolutely going to butcher, and I apologize in advance to the man, but he's a Singapore fighter who is the former ONE champion, Jejmarong Sor Amnuasirichok. He's a very good fighter. He fought the Papao bad boy, Adrian Mateus, is a Tiger Shark Fighting Academy alum and, reasonably good fighter, even though he had a 500 record. But you could tell why Amnuasirichok is the former champion, because, again, we're talking about superior striking versus a fighter who's really game, but didn't quite have the right plan, because basically, Amnuasirichok, you could see that he was not just a striker, but a Muay Thai kickboxer and just an expert and all-around arsenal of offense. Like, you hear him, if you watch enough of these fights in, like, Singapore and Thailand and overseas, they talk about the 8 limbs, and that's what it was like watching Amnuasirichok come forward, because his hands, his feet, his elbows, everything was a weapon on this man. He would just bull rush Mateus, and Mateus would be completely unprepared for it. He'd throw a right hook, and then he'd throw a left kick to the head, and then he'd throw a kick to the body, and then he'd throw a punch to the jaw. It's like, this guy just was non-stop offense. And by the end of this fight, I was like, how was this guy ever defeated as champion? Because watching him fight, I can't imagine who would beat him. I'd have to go back and see the fight where he lost the title, because holy crap.
ONE FC, this is a promotion. If you're a casual fan, this card, it could make you a fan or at least interested in the next fight. They do have some quality fighters there, and this is an example of one.
Speaking of quality fighters, not one of your favorites, but one of my favorites, Funky Ben Askren, who tore the roof off the mother sucker with his entrance, and his opponent was the undefeated alligator from Malaysia called Agalan Tani. And Tani, again, a game fighter, somebody who obviously accepted the challenge and was well known for his submissions and even basically threatened to take Askren down and humble him, to which Askren responded, if I get choked out by this guy, I'll retire. I quit. And he didn't have to retire. He didn't have to quit because the only person who got humbled was Tani, because Askren, it only took him about 30 seconds to get him to the ground. And once he got him to the ground, it was like watching butter in a frying pan. You know, when it just skitters from one side to the other,
Mm-hmm.
it just floats on the surface. That was Askren on top of Tani. He was just floating on top of him, sliding all around, going to any position he wanted, just taking any mount, taking any control he wanted. And at the same time, he was also really hurting him badly as he was moving. He was driving knees into the body. He was getting uncontested shots to the head when he had his arm pinned down. He bloodied him up. He was beating him up. And then, right at the right moment, when he had already made Tani's life miserable and blood was just streaming out of his face, put on an arm triangle, just maneuvered to the side, maneuvered in position with the arm triangle, and you could see the referee, Yuji Shimada, was reaching for Tani's arm to see if he'd go out cold. He didn't even need to, because at the same time he reached for the arm to see if he was going to go out, that was when Tani decided to tap. It was like simultaneous. It was such a great visual moment to see him reach for the arm, and the guy's like, nope, I'm done.
Oh, it's not like Askren knows how to slap on a submission or anything, so.
I mean, this was, for all your complaints about Ben Askren being as boring as watching paint dry, there was absolutely nothing boring about this performance. It was a masterfully one-sided domination, and it was striking and grappling and submissions.
Yeah, but you're such a mark for Askren. You'd be a fan of him putting together IKEA furniture.
Fine, you can say that if you want to, but watch this fight and watch a guy for 2 minutes and 20 seconds prove that he is absolutely as good as he says he is. It's like, okay, if you were a Kurt Angle fan at the 96 Olympics and you were like, yeah, you'd be a fan of this guy buttering toast. Well, okay, sure, but then watch what he does. Yeah, you'd watch him butter toast too if you saw the way he wrestled in those Olympics. It's the same freaking thing.
So Askren wins the fight, defends his welterweight title. Do you think in the next 2 years we'll see him in the UFC octagon?
Not unless Dana White suddenly takes retirement himself and goes and lives in Singapore and watches him fight and sends them a report and says, hey, sign this guy, because we know he's not a fan of him right now, so somebody would have to change his mind, and he'd probably have to be out of power, and then he'd probably have to tell everybody that came after him, don't listen to anything I said. That's the only way that's going to change, because we know that he, like you, is not a fan of Ben Askren.
But we've heard Dana White say there'd be no women's division either.
That's true. I was there when he said that, as a matter of fact. So, yeah, anything can change at any time. But right now, what might change is actually Ben Askren, since he's already undefeated and dominating his welterweight division in ONE FC, challenging for the middleweight title. I've got a quote for you from his post-fight interview. He said, Mitch, I feel great. Big up to Agalan. You guys came out to support him. He's got a great story. He's a young kid. This is not the last time we'll see him in here. We got this guy Vitali. He agreed to fight me, and then he decided he was a bad idea fighting me, and he didn't want to do it anymore. So Agalan took his opportunity. Big Dash ran around like a chicken. Big Dash, I need an opponent August 18th. If you decide you're busy, I'll take the Swedish man. I'm out.
Short and to the point.
So Vitaly Big Dash is next on Ben Askren's list.
All right. What was the main event for the ONE Championship show?
That was Angela Lee defending her atomweight title, and I know you wanted to talk about that.
I'm a big fan of Angela Lee. This is a fighter that when she puts on a choke, I get scared because she puts it on really good, and it's I'm not going to say dangerous, but she's so good at it that I'd be afraid. I would train just to block submission attempts because you don't want to get caught in one of those.
No.
Because you don't want to stay in those too long. That's for sure. When she slaps it on, you're screwed.
Yeah, and Nunez did a good job of defending for 5 minutes, but In the second round, Angela Lee was just too much for her. She got on that anaconda choke and squeezed it real tight, and Nunez had no choice but to tap out at 2:18. So it basically a dominant performance by both of the champions in this showcase of their skills. That it's not like they didn't have good opponents coming in, but they were just on another level compared to the people they were facing. Oh, you know what else we should mention that we haven't already talked about?
What's that?
Gary Tonin versus Shinya Aoki. And this was a grappling only, non-striking match. And you would think, okay, this is 1FC. This is basically Shinya Aoki's kind of turf. This is where he would be really well known and super popular, would be in this area of the world. And Gary Tonin, a relative unknown by comparison, but he went in there and dominated this grappling match and caught Shinya Aoki in a heel hook and tapped him.
Yeah, no shame in that. You got caught in a heel hook. I don't want to be in that for too long. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, but then they were so blown away by this result that Mitch Chilson started trying to book a match on the fly. He's like, do you want a rematch under MMA rules? Are we going to do it? Are we going to see you two fight again in MMA? And he's trying so hard to book this fight right there in the middle of the cage. It was actually hilarious.
I mean, the thing about Angela Lee, it was one of those situations when it comes to a anaconda choke. It's like, is she going for it? Yes, she is. Like, her transition game is on point as well.
If you're not already a fan of Angela Lee, if you don't know about her, then I gotta say, start watching 1FC. Mm-hmm. Start watching her fights. Go back and find some of her others, because it's just astounding how good she is at submissions. I'm waiting for somebody to come along who can actually hang with her, you know. Case in point, remember I mentioned I covered the Rebecca Heinzman fight? That neck crank that she put on Rebecca Heinzman, ouch! You would never want to be caught in that no matter what size of a fighter you were.
And here's the thing. She's only 20 years old.
I know. She's so damn young to be this good. You've got to think that somebody in UFC is looking at her and going, move up to strawweight. Come on. We got a spot for you.
Yeah, I mean, give her a few years. She might make the jump to Bellator UFC. We don't know. I mean, I doubt it right away there, but I mean, some stuff has to change first. But
1FC would be stupid to let her go. They should pay her all the money and keep her, because she is a superstar for this company.
Yeah, and atomweight is a superstar.
Yeah, but that's why 1FC is great, because they can do things that the other companies don't do.
Yeah. Well, they're not like Japan, where they put a 12-year-old against a 24-year-old.
Oh, God, yes.
And the 12-year-old won that fight, by the way.
I know, but it's still horrifying that it even took place.
It's true. All right, so let's talk about the news, and let's talk about Alexander Gustafsson just for a second, because after his victory, he proposed to his girlfriend.
Yeah, it was a really cool moment, because it clearly was something he had in mind, and he admitted at the press conference if he had lost, he might not have had the nerve, but he was so happy with winning that they basically interrupted his post-fight Octagon interview and said, well, I think Gustafsson has something he wants to say. And he's like, yeah, I'd like my girlfriend to come to the ring, please. And I was like, oh shit, I know what he's doing. This is like John Cena and Nikki Bella, except better, because it was not like the end of a story that you already knew was coming. It was completely on the fly. And you could see somebody slip him the ring to give to her right before he got down on a knee.
Now, imagine he lost, and he was concussed, and he still proposed. Would it still count?
I guess if you accept a proposal in any condition, it counts, because how many people have gone through a drive-through chapel in Vegas completely hammered off their ass? It counts.
You had to go there, didn't you, with the drive-through chapel, eh?
Well, you just asked me if it counts, it counts. And I'm saying as long as you do it and there are witnesses, it counts.
Okay, Mr. McMahon Helmsley, whatever you say. Oh, man.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd even make that joke, because Test was involved in that. Rest in peace.
Yes. Now, another engagement was announced this past week because there's pictures of Ronda Rousey sporting a wedding engagement ring. Hopper Brown proposed to her.
Yeah, I guess they went on a hiking trip. It must have happened at some point during that.
So some people do it in front of a huge crowd and some just want to be alone.
That's fine. I respect either way.
Absolutely. Now, as far as some news, there is an interesting story here involving the 145 champ, Jermaine Durandamine. And I don't know how to react to this one, Stevie. I'm going to let you take the floor on this.
Mm-hmm.
She wants to go back to 135.
Well, it's a useless division, so why the fuck not?
So why the fuck was it started in the first place?
It was started because they were going to crown Cyborg the champion.
Yeah, and that went so well. Any update on her battery charge?
No.
Or aggravated assault, whatever it was?
I haven't heard anything new, but I'm assuming that it will probably get settled out of court at some point.
Do you think they'll ever have another fighter retreat?
I think if they do, they won't invite her or Magana.
Now, speaking of fights, Bob Arum has come out and said that if Floyd Mayweather doesn't want to fight Conor, Manny Pacquiao will.
I'm not surprised.
No. I mean, I don't think Conor wants Manny Pacquiao. He wants Conor.
Yeah, he wants the biggest payday possible. And I hate to say it about Manny, but that's not it.
No. So, after the Glover-Gustafsson fight, Anthony Johnson teased coming back on, teased a return afterwards, I guess you could say. I laughed. I was like, okay, no, just no. You announce your retirement. You're doing your own thing. Don't get sucked back in after watching one fight.
Right.
I mean, you walked away with all your faculties. Leave it at that.
Sometimes that's all you can do.
Now, a lot of the news here I'm getting from the presser and from everything else, and you already mentioned some other notes at the presser, but Gustafsson even said about John Jones, quote, he's not a champion.
Yeah, he was point blank asked what he thought of fighting him again. He's like, well, I actually have a lot more respect for Daniel Cormier. He's a real man. He does everything a real champion should do. John Jones is a screw up. I don't have any respect for him. He's not a champion.
So is he trying to hype a fight, or is he just shooting from the hip here?
I quite frankly took that as his honest feelings of a man he finds to be a poor representative of mixed martial arts, and it's not like we haven't echoed those sentiments on this very show.
Now, you mentioned Peter Sabata and his taped up hand after his fight.
Yeah, it was very clearly immobilized.
Yeah, he's gonna need, and I heard this from a few different sources, quote, complicated surgery.
That means he probably fractured his hand in more than one place. He probably has, like, breaks in different fingers or even possibly wrist, that could be many things.
Well, I mean, as I said before, wrist or hand was my first thought, but when I heard complicated surgery, he fucked something up, so.
Yeah, there could be torn, muscles going to the bones in the hand. It could be any number of things. It sure doesn't sound good.
Alright, so Bellator 182 has announced a few fights. The main event will be Andrei Korshakov against Chidi Njokuani.
Yep, Spartan versus Chidi Bang Bang in what can be considered a top of the welterweight division fight. Maybe not a number one contenders fight, but like number 2 or number 3, because Korshakov is the former champion, lost in this very last fight, he lost the title to Douglas Lima, but before that, he was on a 6-fight win streak, and he's only been finished twice in his entire career, and once was by Lima, by knockout, and the other was by Ben Askren, by TKO. So, if Korshakov can get back to his winning ways, he's probably right back in the mix to fight the winner of Lima versus Larkin. So, we'll see how that goes.
Now, the co-main event is very intriguing for hardcore fans.
Yes,
Fernando Gonzalez
against Ward. Yes, the bad boy, the man who got just absolutely destroyed in his fight with Daly. But that's Brendan Ward for you. He either gets destroyed or he destroys people. He doesn't hold back. And Fernando,
he's got an easy fight here, doesn't he?
No, not at all, because Fernando's been hanging around that welterweight contendership status forever and ever in Bellator. So again, he's a guy, if he gets a few wins in a row, he's right back in it.
Fernando Gonzalez, 6-1 in Bellator.
Exactly.
Now, AJ McKee has also been slated for this card. We just have him fighting a TBD at this point.
Yeah. They'll find a good opponent for the Mercenary. I'm not too worried about it.
No, they're going to find someone to get a beat. I mean, a loss. I mean, a fight. Like, what do you mean to say? AJ McKee's on top of the world right now. Like, I don't want to fight him. Do you want to fight him?
I wouldn't, although I do know that I've talked to a couple of people who think he's overrated, but other than that, I would say I wouldn't want to fight him either.
For those who haven't heard, ABC has a few new shows coming up. One of them is called Battle of the Network Stars. Now, I think I'm a little too young to remember this. Stevie, this might be more in your wheelhouse than mine.
Yes, I do remember Battle of the Network Stars. That was a very big thing when I was a little kid.
So they're bringing it back, and one of the cast members is going to be Ronda Rousey.
Well, she needed something to do because she's not fighting, so why not?
When is that movie coming out again?
Which movie?
The Roundhouse.
I have no idea. I haven't heard anything about it in forever.
Yeah, same here. As far as anything else coming up, as far as on my notes, all I have here is Stefan Struve saying he doesn't care where he's ranked, but most fighters are going to say that. Just put, they're content where they are. They don't care. They just want a good fight. You know what I mean? Like, it's a callback to the older days, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Stefan Struve's in a stacked division. I don't think he cares if he's 5 or 6. He's going to get paid regardless.
I think so too.
Now, as far as the main event of this show, we're going to talk UFC 212. UFC is back on pay-per-view, and if we're looking at the main event, it is for the featherweight title. It is a unification fight. Jose Aldo, 26-2 against Max Holloway, 17-3.
Fantastic fight. I'd say right now, arguably, two of the best fighters in that weight class of any promotion anywhere. So you're going to see sparks fly when these two unify the belts.
I might be the underdog on this one, Stevie, but I think they better have the jet geared up and fueled, ready to go, because Holloway's winning this fight.
You think so?
I think it's going to be a knockout. I think he's going to catch Aldo third round, maybe.
So you're basically predicting a repeat of when Aldo and McGregor fought.
Yeah, but it's not going to last 10 seconds.
Well, yeah, it probably will go a little longer.
Although if it happens in 10 seconds, I might chuckle a little bit, but, it's in Rio de Janeiro, and if you beat a fighter from the area, get ready. Like when Chael Sonnen fought Anderson Silva in the rematch, it was like, get the jet ready just in case.
Mm-hmm. So why don't we actually look at the odds and see what they have to say about it, and then see if you're like completely out to lunch or not. I'm not saying that you are. I'm not even implying that you are. I'm just saying that there's definitely going to be more to it than just a knockout. There's going to be some thought given to the fact that Aldo is, at least before he lost to McGregor, was arguably among the most dominant champions in any weight class in UFC, dating all the way back to his days in WEC. And Max Holloway has been a phenom on the rise for quite a while now in the featherweight ranks and has looked better in every single fight with maybe one exception. And I can think of who that is right away, and so can you. So, I would say, this one, there's no definitive line. It's minus 110 to both men. It is the 100%, no question about it, definition of a coin flip.
So who do you have?
Boy, I really like Holloway. I think he's such a phenomenal fighter. And against anybody else, I would probably pick him. The only two people that I wouldn't pick for Max Holloway to just automatically be the guy that wins the fight are Jose Aldo and Conor McGregor. And so he has the misfortune of facing one of those two. And I like your pick because Holloway is so young and so talented. He's only 25 years old. This kid is only going to get better, whether he wins or loses this fight. He's only going to get better. And he's beat such a murderer's row of guys in this division. Cub Swanson, Charles Oliveira, Jeremy Stevens, the bully, Ricardo Lamas. former champion, Showtime Anthony Pettis. I mean, you cannot take anything away from Holloway going into this fight. He's just so good, so young, so talented. But it's Jose Aldo. That's the only explanation I can give you for why I would not go against him, because Jose Aldo is Jose Aldo. This guy from, how long did his streak run? From 2014 to 2006. Nobody could touch this guy. That's just outstanding. That's levels of domination you've only seen from guys like Anderson Silva.
And DJ.
I can't go against Jose Aldo. As much as I like Max Holloway, and I won't be surprised if he wins. I just can't pick against Jose in this situation.
Now, would you put Holloway in the same situation as a Mauler, where you're great, but there's two guys ahead of you?
I think that's pretty close to it, although I would say in that case, there's probably only one guy ahead of Holloway, and that's Aldo, because McGregor vacated and went up to lightweight and won that title. So there really isn't anybody ahead of Holloway other than the guy he's unifying the title with.
Now, what about Gedalia and
Kalakevich?
Thank you.
That should be a really fun fight as well.
Mm-hmm.
I expect an excellent performance here from both of these women, because look at the only two losses, I should say, that the only two fights that Gedalia has lost in, the last 6 years, 8 years, 10 years, is Joanna Champion, both times she fought her. So, Gedalia is that damn good, but Kalakevich, the Polish princess, you should not count her out, because the only woman that she lost to in the last 5 years is Joanna Champion. So this actually is a better definition of what you were just talking about, was the two women who there's only one woman in front of her. Like, it's either their opponent or the champion. Those are the only two people in front of them.
I think Gedalia wins it. I just don't know how. There's a lot of tools in her. A lot of tools here. I think Gedalia wins it, but I just don't know how she wins it.
Gedalia is the favorite at minus 300, and Kalakevich is plus 250. I would say the reason you would go with that is because of the fact that Gedalia is just such a BJJ wizard that if she can put Kalakevich on the ground, Kalakevich could be in big trouble. But if the Polish princess keeps it standing and manages to block some of those takedowns, then that might actually be a good underdog bet if you're the betting type.
Now, Vitor Belfort, in what could be his last fight, goes up against Nate the Great Marquardt.
Please let it be his last fight. I'm a little concerned. I'm not saying this is a joke. I really think it's time for him to go.
Nate, speaking of a fighter who's seen one too many fights as well.
Yeah, these guys are both on the long end of their careers at this point. They both had some fantastic fights and some major championships, but things are not going so good for them at this point in their careers, because with Nate Marquardt, he's lost 4 of his last 6, so he's just barely hanging in there. He gets one win every once in a while that keeps him from being cut or retiring completely, but he's just riding that borderline fence right now. And for Belfort, it's been pretty much all downhill for a while, ever since he got off the gas, and had to because he could no longer get replacement therapy allowed. So he's lost to Jacare Souza, he's lost to Gegard Mousasi, and the only reason he doesn't have a loss to Kelvin Gastelum is because Gastelum's fight got overturned to a no contest.
Stevie, do you think with 93 combined fights between these two fighters alone, that will go the distance?
No, I think they're both susceptible to being hit with a really big shot that could end the fight early. And Belfort is the favorite right now at minus 150, but I don't trust that. I mean, they're giving him the benefit of the doubt because of the fact that he's basically getting the fight in favorable conditions because it's in Rio de Janeiro, because he's going to have hometown support. I don't trust his chin. And I know Nate Marquardt hits really hard, which is why he's still got a few wins out of all those losses, because he's another one of those guys that you don't want to get hit in the right spot because he can drop anybody. I would actually go with the dog in this fight.
But 93 combined fights, that's a lot of fights there.
Yeah, but if you got a little bit of coin and you want to go with a plus 130 or parlay it, I think Marquardt is a reasonable bet, because I just think Belfort's been done for a while now.
Okay, why don't you mention the next fight here?
Okay, we got Paulo Borrachinha versus Olivale Bangabos. And Bangabos is, at this point in his career, 6-2. His last loss was to Cesar Mouchant. And before that, he knocked out Daniel Sarafian with a head kick and punches at the Cowboy versus Cowboy fight night. But that's the only two fights he had in 2016, so a little bit on the inactive side for Bangabos. He needs to really pick up the pace here in 2017, hopefully stay injury-free, and hopefully pick up a win here, but I don't think Borrachinha is going to make that easy for him, because he is basically the phenom that you don't know about who could make his name with this one fight on this one pay-per-view. He's 9-0, and of his 9 fights, 8 knockouts, 1 submission. So, right now I would say Borrachinha is the man to look out for. What do you say?
He's on such a hot streak, you gotta go with the hot hand right here.
Mm-hmm. Although I'm wondering if there was a change to this fight that I was not aware of, because I'm looking at the odds right now, and it says his opponent is Paulo Enrique Costa. So, did we get Borrachinha dropping out? What's the story?
That I don't know.
So, not seeing anything on this page with the fight preview that we set up. Let me see. Borrachinha, UFC.
Well, while you're looking that up,
I've got an article on MMA Mania.
Okay.
Let's see. It's a preview of the fight from Andy Richardson. Andy's a good man. Let's see. What's the news?
He's a good egg.
Okay, something replaced something. I just saw it as I was scrolling down. No, that's from March 10th. Okay, yeah, go on.
Yancy Medeiros and Eric Silva.
All right. Yancy Medeiros and Eric Silva is a coin flip, minus 115 for Medeiros, 105 for Silva. Right now, Silva is, 19-7. His last loss was to Nordine Talib by knockout. Then after that, he came back to choke out Luan Changas, but I don't know. It's like, Eric Silva's kind of one of those fighters he's really dominant for a long time in his career, and then he gets to the highest level in UFC, and it's like, you can see why he was so good before he came to UFC, but then sometimes he just completely shits the bed, and he's done it to guys like Matt Brown, the Immortal, and the Donger, Dong Yun Kim, and Neil Magny, and the aforementioned Talib. It's like, you could be really good, but you shit the bed in big fights a lot of the time, so I don't know. And Medeiros, this guy you definitely don't want to shit the bed against, because he's won 4 out of his last 6, and he's really, really good on the ground. When's the last time you saw somebody win a fight with a reverse bulldog choke? It was probably Yancy Medeiros. So
maybe in the UFC video game, I don't know.
Yeah, but between him and Max Holloway, they might be the 2 best fighters out of Hawaii right now, since I think BJ Penn, again, is another fighter that's a little long in the tooth. So, not saying they don't both honor him as being the guy who put Hawaii on the map for MMA, but Medeiros and Holloway are the future.
Now, as far as
so I am picking Medeiros in that fight, but sorry, go on.
I got Medeiros as well. As far as the prelims are concerned, Assunção and Moraes looks pretty good. Carlos Jr., Eric Spicely, I'm leaning towards Spicely, but I don't want to doubt Carlos Jr. right now.
Yeah, let's see. Moraes is minus 175 against Assunção. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
And Spicely is the dog in that fight. He's plus 175 to Carlos Jr. at minus 210. So I like Moraes in the bantamweight fight, coming off his very successful run in World Series of Fighting, and I like Carlos Jr. Shoeface will probably win this fight at middleweight.
Is there any other fights you want to mention here before we wrap things up tonight?
I would not look past the rest of this card, actually. UFC 212 is pretty well stacked up with talent. You got Matthew Lopez and Johnny Eduardo in what should be a really fun bantamweight fight. Lopez minus 210, Eduardo plus 175. Kelleher and Alcantara is the minus 300 favorite, which is right for me. I might have even made that line a little longer if I was the one making it. And we got a women's fight between Viviane Pereira and Jamie Moyle. Coin flip, that one can go either way. Minus 120 for Pereira right now, plus 100 Moyle. Wallhead and Chagas, that should be a really good fight. Plus 205 to Judo Jim Wallhead. Minus 245 Chagas. And we got Marco Beltran fighting Devison Alcantara. Wonder if he's related to Yuri Alcantara.
That's what I was thinking too.
He's minus 160 and Beltran is plus 140.
I wanted to say Beltran, but it's a prelim fight on Fight Pass starting at 6:30, so if I catch the fights early, I might watch this fight. Alright, so what's on tap for Thursday night AMP?
Thursday night AMP is going to be Extreme Rules.
Please tell me you're not going to do a This Is Your Life segment.
No, I don't think we'll talk about that. We'll talk about Extreme Rules. That'll be it, and then we won't talk about This Is Your Life. That won't happen.
When was the last time, for those who don't know, it was on Raw, WWE put it on YouTube, they took it off, and they edited it. But you said it on the AngryMarks site yourself. You don't know what edits they made.
No, because I don't have Raw on the DVR, and I don't have the original YouTube clip, so I don't know what they changed.
Interesting. I just never heard of that before.
They do it once in a while. They've had times where they've put up a highlight during Raw that obviously somebody made in a hurry, and then they decided, no, that's not a good look for us. And then you go back and look at the video you already posted, and it says, this video is unavailable.
Well, we get that because some of the videos are geo-blocked, and so we don't get them up here. But I would, for AMP, I would hope there'd be some Super Juniors talk as well.
Oh, of course there will be. You know that with Abby and Jason and Will Huckabee, we're definitely talking about Best of the Super Juniors. There is no question about that.
All right. Is there anything else you want to plug this week, boss?
No, I think I'm good, other than to say 1FC was a lot of fun, and if you haven't checked them out, please give them a shot, because it's quality fighting with some really good fighters. And I would also say, look for me on MMAmania.com. If you want to read a lot of good interviews, it's a good place to go. All
right. Well, for Stevie J, I'm Peter Rage, the Hardcore Canadian. Thanks for listening, and as I always say, never leave it to the judges.